It refers to the technical or psychometric quality of a test. So what made you say that it's not just talking about which phrase in that sentence talks about validity? Can you read it aloud? Okay, so which phrase pertains to the reliability of the test? Can you read that phrase? Okay, so there you go. So it pertains to the psychometric qualities of the test. Number 2, the best source of an objective review of a test is, objective review of a test is what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Okay, so I heard some say cat. Cat is incorrect. It's not in the test publisher's catalog description. Because in the catalog, you will only get the description of the test. The utilization, the nature, the purpose of the test. No description. Pero ang tanong dyan, objective review of the test. Ibig sabihin, it was subject to, when you review a test, what do you do when you review a test? What do you do when you review a test? I give you the 16 PF. Review it. When I say review it, you examine it, you evaluate it. What you evaluate it for what? Anong tinitingnan nyo sa test? When you say evaluate it, you look at its strengths and weaknesses. Okay? And peer-reviewed journals, no? For example, specialists in assessment, at the same time they conduct researches, they are the ones who review a test. No? So what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses of this test, how can this be improved, is this correlated with other tests, so on and so forth. Is this clear? So peer-reviewed journals. Again, kung may tanong kayo, just raise your hand and then we'll discuss it as we look into the item. Huwag nang hintayin na lampasan natin yung item. Okay, easy. Number 3. Which is true about the range of a distribution? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Ano yung totoo sa range? All together? Boy, very good. So you remember. Ano ba yung range? How do you compute for the range? All together? Minus? Okay, so it's true, no? It's a quick reference to see the difference between scores, no? The spread between scores. But it doesn't provide enough data to really describe, no, yung spread or distribution ng scores. It just shows you yung distance, no, or difference between the highest and the lowest score. But what happens in the scores in between these high and low scores? It doesn't give us enough data. This is clear? Okay. Number 4 is easy. Resulting data from a test of academic knowledge are positively skewed. So this suggests if the curve is positively skewed, apple, boy, cat, or dog? Together? Apple. So if it's positively skewed, nasaan yung peak ng curve? Towards the left or towards the right? Okay. So nakakalito yan. No? Minsan kasi pag sinabi natin positive, we think that the peak of the curve is towards the right. Actually, parang tingnan natin baligtad. Pag positively skewed, ang bulk niya nasa left. So pag negatively skewed, ang peak niya ay nasa right. Is this clear? Okay. So kung nagpa-punch siya dun sa left side, low scores, the test must be difficult. Number 5. Hintayin lang natin ang ating PowerPoint. Which is not true about multiple regression equation. Which is not true about multiple regression equation. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Okay, cat. So, it is not true na it is better to have more predictors. Okay? So, regardless, if you have 2 predictors or 10 predictors, okay, pwede pa rin yun gawin sa multiple regression. Okay? So it doesn't make it any better. So if your study or your theory tells you that you have 10 predictors, and another study says that it has 2 predictors, it's not a problem. Okay? Malinaw ba sa inyo kung ano yung predictors? Okay. Sige, based sa, let's just think of common sense examples. What do you think? Can you give me predictors of confidence in taking the mock exam? What would predict one's confidence in taking the board exam? Can you give me one? Time spent reviewing. Okay. Yes, so the longer the time that you spend in reviewing, the more confident, no? Hopefully you would be. What else? Again. Materials. Okay, so the more materials, okay, may predict your confidence levels. What else? Ano sa tingin niyo magpe-predict ng inyong kumpiyansa sa sarili para kayo ay mag-exam? Again, scores in mock exams. Okay, yes. So your scores are the number of exams that you have taken for practice. So whether you look at just 2 predictors or 3 predictors or you have 4 predictors, that's okay in multiple regression. Okay? You can test if these predictors really predict your confidence. No? So let's look at the other items. It is needed when more than one score is used in predicting a variable, yes. However, if there is only one predictor, what do you call the regression? If there's only one predictor, everybody? Linear regression. So 2 or more, you get multiple. It cannot be used to test group differences because what tests this, the difference between groups? Supposing you have 2 groups. Yes, so t-test. So if you have 3 groups or more, you do a what? Test of difference. ANOVA. Okay? Naaalala niyo ba itong mga to? Okay, by this time, you should be able to remember this already. Okay, so multiple regression is a form of correlation. It's correlation, actually. So it cannot test for differences. Rather, it tests for what? Multiple regression tests for what? What? Iniba ko lang yung tanong. So kung ang t-test, ANOVA, these are tests, MANOVA, these are tests for differences. Ano naman ang tinetest ng regression? Altogether. You don't know what regression tells you? Regression tells you what? The relationship between variables. Okay? Prediction. Relationship. But it does not tell you the difference. Malinaw ba sa inyo ang test of difference and test of relationship? Yes or no? You're not answering me. If you don't answer me, you tell me, yes, I will not discuss it. Do I need to discuss with the difference between test of difference and test of relationship? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Now, test of difference. I have here 2 groups. Group A, Group B. Okay? Now, I test the difference of your scores in the mock exam. Meaning, talaga bang masasabi ko na ang Group A ay mas magaling kaysa sa Group B? Okay? I'm testing for the difference, significant difference. So I give you the exam, same exam, Group A, Group B. So supposing, wala kasi akong PowerPoint pa, I'm waiting. So supposing that Group A gets, pasimplihan natin, gets 10 out of 15. 10 out of 15 kayo. And Group B gets 5 out of 15. Okay? Now, just by looking at it, you would think that there is a significant difference between these 2 groups, right? Ano yung significant difference? Just by looking at it. Sino ang mas magaling? Group A. So sinasabi natin na, mas magaling yung Group A. Different ang inyong abilities. Group A is better than you. But, we have to conduct a test of difference. In this case, there are only two groups. So I do a t-test. Okay? Now, I do the t-test. I get your scores, I sum it up, I average it, okay? And it would tell me, by looking at the value and the p and the significance, it would tell me if it's significantly different. So, after doing the t-test, the p-value is 0.01 or 0.05 significant. Then I can say that statistically, Group A is really better than Group B. But, if the statistical significance is mataas, let's say 0.15, so hindi siya significant, tama ba? So even if their score is 10 out of 15, and you got 5 out of 15, if after doing a t-test, the result is not significant, even if there is a 10-point difference, or a 5-point difference, you are not significantly different. It does not mean that Group A is better than Group B. Is this clear? Test of difference. Magkaiba ba talaga yung dalawa na grupo or more groups? Now, test of relationship. So I get your scores. Okay? And test if the scores, okay, are related to, ibahin natin yung example, no? Kasi it's Group A and Group B, they are categorical. So it cannot relate it to a continuous variable. Anyway, so I can say that your performance in the mock exam may be related to, what are the factors related to performance in an exam? Okay, yung kaninang example, the time spent reviewing. So, in a test of relationship or correlation, okay, if it's, for example, positive ang direction, the greater the time, what? The greater the time that I spend on reviewing, it's also likely that my confidence in taking the exam is higher. It doesn't mean that my confidence in taking the exam is significantly different from the rest of you. Okay? It's just correlating or relating the two variables, which is the time that you spend reviewing and the time and the confidence that you have in taking the exam. Is this clear? Okay. Sure kayo na malinaw, ha? So pag nag-ano ang ating PowerPoint, let me see if I can give you a more visual example. Because if it's all words, I know that it can get overwhelming. What number are we? 6. Okay, so this is a formula. A reliability coefficient is an index of reliability that reflects the ratio between what? Index of reliability. So what do you look at? It's the ratio between apple, boy, cat, or dog. Altogether? Yes, so boy. You look at the true score variance, the difference between the scores obtained, and the total variance in the exam taken. So, we discussed true versus error variance last week. Do you remember? Okay. So, do we need to repeat the explanation for true versus error variance? No more. Okay, good. Okay, when a criterion measure is itself based on predictor measures, what is said to exist is apple, boy, cat, or dog? Altogether? Cat, criterion contamination. Malinaw sa inyo to? Criterion contamination? Kanino hindi malinaw? Taas ang kamay. Oo, sige, malinaw sa inyong lahat, ha? Number 8. The proportion of people accurately identified by a test as having a particular trait, behavior, characteristic, or attribute is referred to as what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Altogether? Apple, hit rate. Okay, hit rate, yes. The hit rate is a combination of sensitivity and specificity. You're familiar with this? These are facets that are evaluated to test for the test's validity. Okay na. We'll just go back a bit to criteria contamination. So define, when information used by criterion judges. Okay, so for example, you have your teachers as your criterion judges. Is also used as input information for deriving the statistical prediction rules. Okay, so medyo technical. So bigyan natin kayo ng example. Okay, so for example, your criterion is relationship success. Okay, so gusto ninyong malaman kung ang relationship ba ng dalawang tao ay magiging fruitful and successful. Okay, so we want to come up with statistical prediction rules that would tell us, okay, that given these behaviors shown or exemplified by the couple, the relationship would be successful. Okay? Now, for example, you have teacher A, B, and C. Okay? They are given information about what relationship success is. Okay? They're given information about what relationship success is. And they were also given information na nakuha mula sa mga couples na merong successful relationship. So itong information na to, maaaring galing sa interview data or case history. Naintindihan ba? Okay. So, ito, teacher A, B, C. Okay, so this is relationship success. We'll derive the prediction rules for relationship success. And based on interview from successful couples, ito yung mga predictors ng kanilang relationship or ito yung mga elements ng kanilang successful relationship. Okay, now, so what do teachers do now is to derive the rules based on those data. Naintindihan ba? So yung criterion ng relationship success contaminated by the data that was already given to them. Naintindihan niyo? Okay, so they're using the same data that they have, okay, to derive the prediction rules for relationship success, which they have to evaluate. Naintindihan ba? So, ang mangyayari niya, natural. Kung ano yung nandun sa sinabing data, lalabas yun dun sa inyong statistical prediction rules, right? So, to avoid criterion contamination, naintindihan na ang criterion contamination. So, the criterion is now contaminated by the present information. So, the data is used to inform the judges, and the data is used by the judges to derive that rule, no? So, what we can do is what? To avoid criterion contamination, anong pwedeng gamitin natin, no, para ma-assess ang isang success ng relationship? To derive the rules. What would tell us that, oh, your relationship would be a success or would likely be fruitful? What can we do? Integrating all what you know about assessment, psychometrics. Naisip ba kayo? Ano bang pwedeng kunin ng data? Given this example. surveys, that's right. That's right. Or by administering results or getting data, administering relationship tests, no? And using this data to understand or to form the rules for criteria on relationship success. So, you have those information from interview, case history data, but you're deriving your prediction rules from another source of data, which is scores from psychological tests. Derived from individuals or couples who have successful relationships. Isn't it? Tama ba? Okay, so then, criterion contamination is reduced, if not eliminated. Is this clear? Okay, so, please ko muna. Questions? Number 9, which is true regarding the cost of testing versus non-testing, which is true among the 4. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Yes. So it depends on the situation if testing or not testing costs more. Okay? In some cases, you can do away with tests and probably go straight to intervention. Okay? Maybe just conduct a comprehensive interview and not really administer tests. And it's okay, no? But there are cases wherein you would really have to undergo assessment before undergoing intervention. Okay? Naalala ko yan, merong mga clients na hindi sila nag-undergo ng complete battery of psychological assessment. So they go straight to intervention. Okay? So therapy, skills training, or whatnot. But the interventionists, whether psychologists or other mental health professionals, they don't really see progress in the client. No? So in the long run, parang mas nagiging costly yung walang assessment or walang testing. It could have been better if there was assessment done before the intervention so that they know what is the best intervention to give the client. Okay, so it's really a case-to-case basis. Number 10. Utility analysis of a test will help decide all of these except apple, boy, cat, or dog. When you say utility analysis, ano yung hindi part ng utility analysis dyan? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Hula. The answer is cat. If a test to be used for a specific purpose is itself psychometrically sound. Pag kasi utility na yung ine-evaluate nyo na yung gamit ng test. Okay? So hindi na kasama doon yung pag-evaluate ninyo comprehensively ng psychometric properties of the test. Okay? So yung gamit, the utility means the utilization of the test. So A, B, and D pertain to analyzing the use of the test given a particular context. 11, which is true regarding multiple cut scores and multiple hurdles as selection processes. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? All together? Yes, so boy. Multiple hurdles process is actually more sophisticated than using multiple cut scores. You're familiar with the difference between hurdles and cut scores? Yes or no? Who needs an explanation? Taas ang kamay. Wala. Sure, ha? Okay, we proceed. Huwag kayong mahiya kasi ako natagalan akong intindihin noon to eh. Anong difference eh. So, sure kayo, malinaw na ha? Okay. A Likert scale is a what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Boy. It's a summative scale. Is it clear why a Likert scale is considered a summative scale? So what makes it summative? Ano yun? What makes it summative? Walang ganong sagot sa board exam. So, what? Summative because? Sige, dapat alam mo, bakit naging summative siya? The distance between points are, the assumption in a Likert scale is that the distance between points are equal, okay? And they add up, okay? For example, can you give me an example of a Likert scale? Give me a 3-point Likert scale. O mahirap ba ang 3 points? Gusto niyo 5-point Likert scale? Ano? I'm sure nakasagot na kayo, nakagawa na kayo mga survey. So give me 1 is equals to what? Or 1 means what? What? Strongly disagree. 2 is disagree. 3 is neither agree nor disagree. 4 is agree. 5 is okay. So they add up, no? The assumption is that the distance between strongly disagree to disagree is equal to disagree between disagree and neither agree nor disagree. Is this clear? Okay. So hold on. Nadid ang aking laptop. Sige, balikan natin yan. Anong number na tayo? Okay. Test revision. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Test revision. Nakita ko tuloy yung mga sagot ko. Test revision, apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, okay. Test revision, the answer is apple. So it applies to both brand new and existing tests. Oh, talo sa pustahan yung isa. Okay. Okay, now, what is the answer of the others answer? Dog. What is dog? Ah, okay. Now, if we look at letter D, may sumagot ba ng letter D? Nasaan na ba tayo? Occurs after each stage of the development process. So when you're doing test development, it goes through 5 different stages or processes. You cannot revise every step of the way. If you revise every step of the way, it means that there is something wrong with your process. Okay? So, yes, once the development is complete, you evaluate it and revise, if there's a need to revise. And it applies to both old and existing tests because test revisions happen, even to already established tests. So, for example, we have the 16PF or the NEO PI4. Did you know that that's a 4th edition already? Okay, now, why do they keep on revising when these are already established tests? Because what? What are the reasons for updating or revising the test? Yes, for one, establishing again the psychometric properties, updating the norms, ano pa? Okay, after item analysis, so they do item analysis again, they would see which items would have to be revised, omitted, or changed, or whatnot. Okay? Is this clear? Okay. So yeah, the Likert scale. because of the distance between the points. No? The assumption is the equal distance between points. Okay. Next. Number 15. 14. In the two-factor theory of intelligence, there's a general intelligence factor denoted by the G, and what else? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Okay. The answer is cat. Both A and B. There is, yes. Yeah, I admit that we were not able to really mention this in our discussion. But there's the general factor and the specific. And of course, it takes into account the error components, which is the E. Okay? Malinaw ba sa inyong difference ng G and S? Okay, so no need to discuss. But I'll just show you anyway. Sorry. Okay, it's just. Okay. Okay. Next, number 15. This is specific to the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children. There's already 5th edition to the WISC-5. So talagang, ang bilis ng pagbabago ng tests. Okay? So, which is true about the WISC-4? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? What's your hula ninyo? Dog, yes. It does not have a verbal IQ and performance IQ scores, but the Wechsler, what? At least the ones for children, intelligence scale for children, it has 4 indices. Okay? Nasa ko yan? Nasa example ko yan sa inyo before. Naalala niyo, inanalyze natin yung confidence interval ng isang set of scores sa isang table. Anyway, I'll show you na lang din later. So, meron 4 indices, and what is the IQ score derived from the WISC-4? If you remember, we keep on using the same example. What IQ score? Not verbal, not performance, but anyone who remembers? The composite or the full scale IQ score. So wala siyang verbal performance. It just yields a total IQ score. Okay? 16. A researcher develops a 50-item test intended to assess board exam readiness. When she calculates the reliability of this test, she obtains a coefficient of 0.50. Okay? So, what should the researcher do? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together. Iba-ibang sagot ninyo. Sige nga. Nagde-develop siya ng 50-item test. Ang reliability coefficient, 0.50. So, kung kayo ang researcher, anong sunod ninyong gagawin? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay. Ang sagot ay dog. Could use subjects or more diverse. 0.50 is what? 0.50 is already? Okay. Is it acceptable? Is it acceptable already? Actually, depende pa yan sa test na dinedevelop niya, no? So, kung mga cognitive functioning test, dapat hindi bababa ng 0.70, no? But let's say the researcher is just developing a scale that assesses maybe a simpler construct or variable like happiness. So 0.50 is it acceptable already? Is it acceptable? Ang 0.50? Pwede na. Okay, 0.50, acceptable, mababa siya, no? So we don't end at 0.50. Okay, so of course, technically, what would increase reliability is to administer the same test to a more diverse group of samples. Is this clear? Okay, so the answer is dog. Okay, some of you answered C. Could make the items in the instrument more diverse. If you do this, what happens to reliability? Increase or decrease? It would decrease. Remember, to establish stronger reliability, okay? The items, the greater the items, mas marami, the higher possibly the reliability. The more unidimensional, okay, the content is, the higher the reliability. So you cannot make the items more diverse. It would lower the reliability pa. Rather, you administer a unidimensional test, a more unidimensional test, to a diverse group of people. So baka yun yung nakakalito eh. Okay? So, unidimensional, okay? The items should be more closely related to each other, but the samples, the people who should take the test should be more different. Here, so the greater difference in terms of the people who would take the test and not in the items. Malinaw ba? 17. Incremental validity is associated with the test what? Of course, you look at the apple, boy, cat, or dog. All together? Incremental validity is associated with what? Remember incremental validity. What is incremental validity? In your own words. Hindi kailangan technical ang sagot ninyo. Explain niyo anong incremental validity. Anyone? So I'll just randomly point at someone because you're not telling me if you don't know or you understand. In your own words, explain. Biglang nakatingin lahat sa papel. Buksan ninyo yung notes nyo. Kung may notes kayo, hanapin, incremental validity. Dito tayo sa batang likod. Sige, basa. Sige, sentence completion test. It's the extent to which the test, what? What? Relates to. Sige, so that the rest can hear it. It's okay, because you see, if you're forced to explain it, the more that you would remember it. It relates to the variable that it what? Purports to measure. You're talking about validity in general, that's right. But what is incremental validity? Sino yung nakakopya dun sa discussion before? Yes, thank you.
It is the extent of the available information, increase the accuracy of prediction.
That's right. Okay. So, it's how much your test adds new information that would increase the prediction of your, what? Your battery. The other test results as well. Yung increment, kumbaga ano yung nadadagdag niyang information so that you understand your client better. Okay? And that it strengthens the prediction of your assessment. Your entire assessment. So if that is the definition, it's associated to what? It's very what? The test should, in a way, tama na rin the use of the term relate, no? In a way, makes it a little bit correct. So the test should be what? Saying something about the person's present functioning. Hence, it's more associated to what? Altogether, concurrent validity. So, the answer is cat. Naintindihan ba? Incremental ba? Di ba alam niyo yung term na increment? Dagdag. So, pag nag-administer ako ng 16 PF, tapos mag-a-administer pa ako ng thematic apperception test. So, dapat, yung combination nitong dalawang to, okay, which assesses my here and now, should increase what I know about my client and what I can predict about his future behaviors and tendencies. Is this clear? So if you incremental validity, increment, dagdag, tumataas, lumalakas ang power ng aking assessment and its ability to predict what would happen to my client. Clear? Okay, next. 18. A test of cognitive reasoning is administered to 240 third-grade students and a reliability coefficient of 0.83 is obtained. If the same test were to be administered to second, third, and fourth grade students, 80 students per grade level, the new reliability coefficient would most likely be apple, boy, cat, or dog. Yes, the higher the original, you will get a higher coefficient than the original. Why is that? Why is that? Bakit tumaas? Dahil, yes, so you administered the same test to more students in different levels. Is this clear? More diverse. Mas iba-iba. 19. Which of the following is not likely to decrease the validity coefficient? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Hula. Hula all together? Hula talaga. Hindi kayo sumasagot eh. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay, so it's not criterion contamination. Actually, criterion contamination, when you look at it, will it strengthen, the way we explain criterion contamination, will it improve or negatively impact validity? Specifically, yung defining the criterion. Will it clarify the criterion if criterion contamination happens? Of course, we should avoid it. But the way it was defined, will it lower the validity? Papangit ba or magiging mas inaccurate pa ang definition ng criterion if criterion contamination happens? What do you think? Based on what we discussed just a while ago. With relationship success, what do you think? Will it make the criterion more precise? Or lalabo ba ang criterion when contamination happens? What do you think? Oh, ano naman tayo, ha? Applied understanding of the concept. Remember contamination, di ba? I use interview data from couples who have successful relationships to derive my criterion of successful relationships. So, information from couples who have successful relationships, will it improve the criterion, the definition of the criterion, or will it negatively impact it? Lalabo ba ang criterion? Lilinaw o lalabo? Mas lilinaw. So, will validity suffer with criterion contamination? No. But we don't, of course we avoid criterion contamination, right? There's a better way to establish it other than doing what happens with criterion contamination. So B is not the answer. So what is your next guess? What's your next guess? Yes. So, basahin na natin. Pakibigkas ang letter D. Again. Sabihin natin 10 times. Heteroscedasticity. Okay, so what is heteroscedasticity? Anyone? Is this clear? This concept clear? Does anyone, can anyone help me explain it? It's a pretty confusing term. Its opposite, homoscedasticity. So, by definition, it refers to the circumstance in which the variability of a construct or the variability of a variable is unequal across the range of values of a second variable that predicts it. Okay? So it's opposite, homoscedasticity, wherein random variables have same finite variance. So let me give you an example. So let's say variable 1 natin is amount of chocolates consumed in a week. So who likes chocolates here? Okay. So nakakailang bars of chocolates kayo in a week? Okay. And the next variable is happiness. So do you agree that the more chocolates that you eat, the happier you are? Okay. So anyway, variability of a construct is unequal across the range of values, second variable that predicts it. Let's say, for example, the levels of happiness, okay? The levels of happiness between this group of individuals, or these groups, are different, okay? Are different at the same time, the amount of chocolates that they consume in a week are different, okay? So, the variability of construct, or the variability of variable 1, okay, is unequal. Variable 1 is levels of happiness, okay? Or the dependent variable is levels of happiness. Okay? So the variability in the levels of happiness between these groups are different, okay? Across the range of values that the second variable predicts. The second variable is what? The second variable is, or the independent variable is what? In our example, yes, the chocolates consumed. Okay, so the difference between the variance, or the differences in the scores, is referred to as heteroscedasticity. Is this clear? Is this clear? Okay, so halimbawa, kaya iba yung kulay niyan, di ba? So, 1 bar a week. So, itong 4 na taong to, let's say, 1 is represented by 10, so 40 people. No? So, in this group, who consume only 1 bar a week, iba-iba pa rin yung levels of happiness nila. Naintindihan ba? So, itong 10 na to, siguro in a rating scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the happiest, like euphoric kind of happiness. No? So, siguro sila yung 10, and then the rest are pretty much equal. Okay? So same here. In 3 bars a week, okay? 3 bars a week, siguro yung level of happiness is nasa 7 for the 20, but the other 20, variable yung kanilang levels of happiness. Is this clear? So even if they receive the same condition, the scores or the variance in that variable that is predicted is also different. Malinaw ba? Yes or no? Okay. Okay. Do we move on, or do you want me to change the variables? Like the number of Korean novelas that you watch, predict. Okay ba? Number 20. The nomothetic approach to assessment is characterized by apple, boy, cat, or dog. The nomothetic approach to assessment, nomothetic, is characterized by efforts to learn apple, boy, cat, or dog. All together? Yes, cat. So how a limited number of traits or specific traits apply to all people. Okay, next. 21. Objective methods of personality assessment. Objective methods. Personality assessment. What is true about this? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Ay, hina ng sagot. Hindi sure. Hula. Again? 5 na lang bang kausap ko? Blanco ba sagot nyo dito? Ano hula ninyo? Okay. Cat. Objective methods of personality assessment normally have short answer items, needing little judgment to score. Why is that the answer? Think of your objective personality tests. The items are usually short and clear, and when you score it, you don't have to really examine it because there is a given answer, right? If you answer true or false, it means something about your personality, right? The test administrator doesn't have to analyze it or himayin pa. Anong klaseng test, anong klaseng personality test ang nangangailangan ng evaluation and judgment to interpret it? Yes, projective tests. Okay? Now, if we look at items A, ang personality test, wala naman yung correct or incorrect answers. Okay? So, hindi letter A. Okay. When answering objective personality tests, you don't have to do behavioral observation or direct behavioral observation. Okay? Because the client is already answering the test. Okay. Then number 22. The halo effect can be controlled by all of the following except apple, boy, cat, or dog. All together? Okay. So how do you minimize halo effect? What is halo effect? This is a bias, right? Okay. So, how do you minimize that? The best way to make your assessment more objective is to letters A, B, and C. So the answer is letter C, or cat. Of course, if you use relative methods, what do you mean by relative methods? Ibig sabihin, paiba-iba. No? Inconsistent ang methods mo. Of course, if you use inconsistent methods, well, it doesn't really eliminate the bias, okay, and it made the assessment even more problematic. Okay? So to help take out that bias or effect, you train the raters what is being observed. Okay, you tell them, oh, ito yung observe natin, ha? So pare-pareho dapat tayo ng makikita or ma-observe. And then, utilizing forced choice, so that giving them an objective test, okay, that makes them answer either this option or that option, okay? And utilizing an observation checklist. You're familiar with the BARS? What does BARS mean? Activity rating scale. So that is an objective observation, observation checklist. Okay, 23. Sabi pa, if using a selection test results in 40% of the African American applicants being hired and 45% of the white applicants being hired, you can conclude apple, boy, cat, or dog. Altogether? Answer? Okay. The answer is dog. The test may or may not have differential validity. It did not really differentiate between the African American and the white applicants. No? So now, what makes you say that adverse impact has occurred? What is the adverse impact for those who answered A? I cannot really identify a very negative impact, no, when using this kind of test. It's just that it was not able to really differentiate between two groups. Okay? 24. You're familiar with the Ravens? Okay, so it's the best test of apple, boy, cat, or dog. All together? Yes, apple. The Spearman's G factor, or general intelligence. Okay? That's why the Ravens is widely used, no, as a non-verbal test of intelligence. A researcher is interested in the relationship between morality and criminal behavior among Christians. The researcher measures morality based on rate of church attendance and finds that many of the non-church goers have no criminal record. So the best explanation for this finding is what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Hula? Okay, right. Boy, criterion deficiency. So, what do we mean by criterion deficiency? So, this happens. So, criterion contamination, criterion deficiency. Ano naman yung criterion deficiency? Criterion deficiency. What makes the criterion deficient in that particular example? What makes it deficient? That made you say that it's criterion deficiency. What is the criterion? What? Morality. What are the constructs again? Morality and? Sorry. Church attendance. Okay. So, morality and church attendance. So, what makes the criterion morality deficient? Yes? Mababaw yung dahilan. Ano yung dahilan?
Yung relationship na ba? Ano siya naging related?
Yung church going and morality. Okay, sige. Let's make it more concise. Criterion deficiency. Bakit deficient yung criterion ng morality? Bakit yung sabing deficient? Same ng answer. Para kayong merong telepathic communication. Anyway, magbabago yung dahilan. Let me make it more concise.
Subjective po yung morality.
Church going. Okay, subjective yung morality when it comes to church going. Okay. Maybe it's based on an empirical study. Okay? The researcher did this background study. Oh, sure. One manifestation of you being moral is that you attend church regularly. Okay? But, what makes it deficient? Do you go to church regularly, religiously? Are you moral beings? Okay, now, you see, what makes it deficient? The criterion deficiency is because kulang, no? Deficient yung conceptualization ng criterion. Morality is not just based or defined by church attendance. Okay? So while it may be true that it is a facet of morality, it's still kulang, deficient. What are other facets that would say that what are the other manifestations or evidence of being a moral person or morality? Maybe not just their church attendance. What else? Other factors that this researcher may have considered. Is this clear? Okay. Okay, but I must say, no, ang galing nating mag-single out ng answers. No? So strategy din talaga yan sa pagsagot ng exam. Okay, so alam natin yung ibang choices, pero hindi tayo familiar sa concept na to, so maaaring ito yung sagot. Okay? Pero mas maganda kung alam natin. Ha? Okay. Dr. Maximum has developed a new antidepressant medication. Early medication trials suggest that the medication is very effective. Dr. Mum recruits 40 subjects, 20 are given medication, 20 are given placebo. Treatment outcome is measured using the BDI. Dr. Mum does not inform the subjects whether they are receiving the medication or the placebo. He is doing this in order to control for what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Pag hindi talaga ako sumasagot agad, nag-iiba yung sagot niyo. No? It's not expectancy effects. Expectancy effects is coming from what? From the investigator or from the research participants? Expectancy effect comes from the investigator. So it's not boy. Expectancy affects what you expect to see from your participants, and it affects the way you conduct the study. So it's not expectancy effects. So he did not explain the conditions because he's controlling for what? So if it's not B, it's what? Yes, so it's demand characteristics. What is demand characteristics? Demand characteristics. Clear? Is demand characteristics familiar? Demand characteristics is the participant's interpretation. Walang PowerPoint eh, so kung ano nyo it's the participant's interpretation of the purpose or nature of the experiment or the study. So your own understanding of it. Okay, so you see when the researcher or when the experimenter would explain the study, no? But of course, the experimenter cannot 100% explain what the study is about. Otherwise, malalaman mo kung ano yung ginagawa niya, di ba? So anyway, it's better to not discuss certain aspects of the experiments yet, because the participants may, may conjure their own interpretation of what their study is about, no, and what you're doing in your study. Is this clear? Demand characteristics. (27) A child who is tested on the WISC-4 at age 10 scores 70. Retesting 2 years later, the child scores higher. 70 is what? Is it poor? Siguro sa simpler terms, no? Is it poor or best performance? Sa intelligence test. Okay, 70. Borderline yan, no? After retesting, after 2 years, nag-retest yung bata, tumaas. Hello. Tumaas yung kanyang score. So, ano posibleng nangyari? Apple, cat, or dog? Okay. While it is true, no, that developmental maturation may affect, of course, our development of intelligence and other abilities, okay, it is not true for all, no? But the answer is regression to the mean. Okay? What do we mean by this? Are you familiar with regression to the mean? It's a tendency for scores, okay, or characteristics to approach the average. That's why it's called regression to the mean. No? We cannot say it's an outcome of test practice. Why not? Because it's been 2 years, no? Talagang pwede nang gamitin yung same test to assess. It could be instrumentation, letter B, but there's not enough data. No? Okay. It could be maturation, but it's not always the case. No? But for scores to get higher or to normalize, no, or to approach the average is a phenomenon or a tendency that we call regression to the mean. Okay? Now let me give you another example. You're familiar with your personality disorders. No? You're familiar with personality disorders. Okay. So, ang sabi kasi sa mga studies, the older the person is who has a personality disorder, mas humihina yung signs ng disorder. No? So, nagiging mas normal, mas average ang kanilang behavior. So, it's also an example of their tendency for the scores to regress to the mean, okay? Or to reach that balance, okay, or average. Is it clear? Okay. Test. The single most important principle in ethics of testing is apple, boy, cat, or dog. Madali na lang to. Sagot. Yes, of course. At the bottom of it all, the testing should serve the best interests of the client. And A, B, and D would follow. Clear? Okay, next. 29. For criterion reference tests, Norms are apple, boy, cat, or dog. Criterion, reference, test. Norms are right, cat, uncommon and not essential. Which types of scores are negative values possible? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Negative scores. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Hula. Anong sagot nyo? Apple, tama. Standard scores. That's the term, di ba? Hindi standardized scores. Can you give an example of standard scores that has a negative value? Z-score. 31. What approach do most test developers use in choosing a norm group? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Easy? Apple. Of course, you have to exert effort to select a representative sample. (32) Perfect correlation. What does it mean? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? A perfect correlation. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Which is most true? Ano sagot niyo? No. Wala. The answer is boy. It does not imply identical pre and post scores for each examinee. Okay? It does not mean that there's a perfect correlation, that the scores are equal. Okay? Like in one test, your score is 99, and your score in the other test is also strictly, absolutely 99, so that they're correlated, or that the correlation is high. Okay? (33) What is the relationship between the reliability and the validity of a psychological test? Oh, madali lang to. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes. So of course, reliability is necessary, but not sufficient for validity. Okay. Boy. Oh, this one. Familiar ba kayo dito? Specific to medyo advanced assessment to. The Planck subtest has the highest correlation with overall IQ. In theory, apple, boy, cat, or dog? What's your hula? Yes, actually it's vocabulary. You're fond of word knowledge, no? So it also follows na you understand, when you have a wider vocabulary, you have better understanding of concepts. Okay? So it's more closely related to overall IQ. 35. The culture fair intelligence test is apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Very good. Apple, a good measure of general intelligence. Can a test be 100% culture-free and be a good test? Mawawala ng context. No? If it's 100% culture-free. That's why we don't say culture-free test of intelligence. Rather, it's culture fair. Okay? So remember that. So it's A. Which of the following is the best method for determining the percentile rank regarding a group of scores? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? What is your answer? Yes, dog. Cumulative distribution, or graphing or plotting the graph of the cumulative distribution. Okay, the ogive curve. No? Okay, we go back to positive skewness. On a positively skewed curve, which is true? On a positively skewed curve, wala akong illustration ito. Pero, on a positively skewed curve, which is true? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay. It's dog. The mode, you imagine, sorry wala akong illustration kasi wala akong internet. Wala akong internet. So hindi ko ma-picture. Anyway, if you have the picture of a positively skewed distribution, it's skewed to the curve is in towards the left or towards the right? Towards the left. So the mode is higher than the mean, but the mean is lower than the what? Oh, sorry. The mode is lower than the median, but the median is lower than the average or the mean. Okay? So get hold of the illustration of a positively skewed curve. You know? And you get an illustration which identifies where is the mode, the median, and the mean. Okay? Anyway. Many current criticisms of psychological tests are actually due to, ito yung last week pa ninyo, so dapat tama kayo dito ha. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay, good. So it's the misuses of these tests by unqualified users. So in a nutshell, a test will not be made available for use if it has bad quality or if it has poor psychometric properties that are undeclared. Okay, so it's most likely the failure of the test user to utilize it properly. Okay. 39. What does it mean if Angela, a 6th grade student, obtained a percentile score of 50 in a vocabulary test? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Last week lang to. Yes, so her vocabulary or her ability to understand and use words falls within the average range. Percentile of 50 falls on the average range. Okay? Do you remember what is the range? If looking at percentile scores, what percentile scores fall within the average range? Range of what? From what to what? Remember, we discussed this last week for those who did Rashi last week. Some even took pictures of the slide. What is the range? If you're looking at percentile scores and judging the percentile, if the performance is average, what are the values? From what point to what point? 25 to 75. Okay? Or could be adjusted, could be 20 to 80, okay, still within the average range. So if your score falls on the 30th percentile, your ability is still classified as within the average range. Okay? So yung score ni Angela na 50, percentile rank 50, definitely nasa average range siya. Okay, 40. Which is true about ratio IQ? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Altogether? Cat, yes. It was abandoned for deviation IQ. We now use deviation IQ. We don't use ratio IQ anymore. Why is that? Anyone? Ratio IQ is what? Ratio IQ is passé because... What? Ratio IQ is passé. Luma na yan. Hindi natin ginagamit yan. Because our IQ is not solely based on the ratio between what? What sorts of ages? Mental age and chronological age. No? So hindi na yan lang ang tinitignan. No? And it's too restricting in a sense that that ratio tells us that as you grow older, yung chronological age mo, habang tumatanda ka, dapat ang iyong ability ay tumataas. But it's not always the case. Okay, that's why now we have the deviation IQ. In the deviation IQ, what are the scores that we look at? What are the values that we look at? We take into consideration the score in relation to the obtained score in relation to the what? Altogether. Mean and standard deviation. Okay, good. 42. Which describes criterion more accurately? Easy. Apple, boy, cat, or dog. Criterion is? Altogether? Cat, yes. It's an external measure that the test is designed to predict. Forty-three. 41. 41 yung deviation. Okay, sorry. 41. To know the standing of a client in an IQ test relative to the performance of other people his age, of course, you refer to the what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? To know the standing of a client in an IQ test relative to the performance of other people his age, you should look at the what? The deviation IQ. Okay? His IQ score would tell you if his performance is below average, average, above average, superior, relative to the group. Okay? What number are we? 43. The process of comparing a person's score on an item to an external criterion or to his total test score is called apple, boy, cat, or dog. Last week lang to. Boy, item, discrimination. So in item discrimination, the item becomes more discriminating if it's what? Give me a value. From, ano yung acceptable na? 0.20 too low pa? Pwede na, pero in psychological test we can 0.30. Okay, the item is already discriminating. Of course, the higher it is or the closer it is to what? The closer it is to what value, the more discriminating it is. What number? The closer it is to what? Oh my goodness. If the value is closer to what value, it becomes more discriminating. So if 0.30 is acceptable, we should strive to achieve what? So that it's powerfully discriminating. Positive. Positive. 1. We just discussed this. You were here, right? What's happening? Oh my goodness. Okay. Sabi nga ng anak ko, oh my goodness. Please. Okay, so what does it mean if the item is discriminating? What does it mean? It can discriminate between what? High, low scores, okay, or whatever, of whatever criterion, okay? So, if the value is low, what does it mean? What does it mean? It cannot tell us, the test developer, if this item would segregate the group into passers or those who would fail, or who would get or who would do well or who would do bad in the test. Okay? So, kung ang goal mo is for this item to be able to discriminate, tapos ang baba ng nakuha mong value, will you include it or will you delete it or change it? Change it. Okay? Is it clear? Okay. The following are important activities in assessment except apple, boy, cat, or dog. Other? Okay. The answer is dog. All of the above. Bakit ayaw niyong isama yung cat? Can we decode what cat is? I'm sure it's not just that group, that has an answer. But okay, when we say deciphering when to question, the usual interpretation of a procedure, okay, as psychometricians or assessment psychologists, okay, so, magbibigay kayo ng test. Letter C ang ine-explain ko ha, bakit parte yan ng assessment. Magbibigay kayo ng test sa kliyente ninyo. Okay? Okay, let me give an example of a case that was, I read somewhere. So, they are recruiting personnel for maintenance position. Ibig sabihin, janitors, janitress. Binigyan ng highly verbal test. Example, nakalimutan ko ng anong test eh. Let's say, binigyan ng 16 PF. Lahat kayo nakapagtignan ng 16 PF. Okay. Now, binigyan ng 16 PF. Yung mga scores ay variable. Binigyan ng aptitude test at bagsak sa aptitude test. Sa isang very verbal na aptitude test. Okay. Now, with letter C, okay, as a psychometrician and assessment psychologist, unang-una, dapat hindi mo binigay yan. Diba? Given the profile of your applicants, do they have the skills to answer the test that you have? So you're evaluating, okay? Ito bang procedure na to ay nararapat? Do I include it? Do I exclude it? Okay? What else? Aside from evaluating the procedures, you also evaluate the scores. Halimbawa, mababa siya dun sa aptitude test. Ang tinapos lamang niya ay grade 2. Okay? So can you say na talagang mahina ang kanyang cognitive abilities? Masasabi niyo, mababa ang kanyang cognitive abilities? Hindi. Kasi maaaring yung test na binigay mo ay hindi appropriate sa kanya, and if you're really required to administer the test, at least declare that this person obtained this score, but this person only received this much formal education. Okay? So that whoever would read your report can say that, okay, so maaaring it's not a function of the test that you gave. It's not a function of his mababa ang kanyang abilities, but other factors included. Okay? Is it clear? So that's what letter C means. The process by which we choose a set of rules to measure a characteristic or phenomenon is called what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, it's scaling. Apple. Okay. 46. Robert administered an aptitude test comprised of 5 subtests. The test yields 5 subtest scores and 1 overall or composite score. Which is the first and more important strategy that he should do in interpreting the score? Altogether, apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay, very good. So you interpret the global or composite scores first. After that, you look at the subtest scores. And see how 2 or more subtests relate to each other. But yes, the first is to interpret the global score. In which of the following situations is personality test not needed? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Personality test not needed. Answer? Yes, so dog. Why? What makes you say that hindi kailangan ng personality test dyan? What is the word that told you? Yes, so anong kailangan? I-administer. Okay, a cognitive functioning test. 48. A psychometrician who would like to assess the reliability of a psychological test scoring system. Which of the methods is the most appropriate in this situation? All together? Yes, boy, the interscorer reliability. Okay, a psychometrician found out that test takers get inconsistent answers on test item 15. He thought that this item should be changed. This decision is based on what statistic? Apple, boy, cat, statistic. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Cat, the KR20, that's right. Which of the following is not true about the z-score? Which is not true about the z-score? Answer? All together? Dog. May narinig ako nagsabi ng boy, okay lang yun. Pero yun nga kailangan natin ng mean para ma-compute yung equivalent z-score. We have to get the score, what is the mean, and then the standard deviation. So the mean is important as well as the standard deviation. 51. Which of the following statements is not true about the Stanine system? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay, the Stanine system... mali. Not boy. Sorry. It's not true. Which of the following statements is not true about the Stanine system? Yes, sorry. Boy is the answer. The Stanine system is independent of the normal curve. Of course, it's not independent of the normal curve. It's actually within. It falls in the normal curve. Okay, next. Hold on. Given a set of scores with a mean of 54 and standard deviation of 7, the z-score of 52 is apple, boy, cat, or dog? Nabigay ko sa inyo yung formula last meeting, di ba? Okay, so the answer is apple, negative 0.28. Okay, next. Okay, this one is the item that lacks data, no? But we just infer from it. Given a set of scores with the highest raw score of 98 and the lowest raw score of 15, which of the following is true about the Stanine 1 of this distribution? Stanine 1 is what? How many percent of the distribution? 4%, no? Which is equivalent to about 15 to 17. So the right answer here is, syempre yung pinakamababa, no? Apple. The highest score of Stanine is 1. Stanine 1 is 17. 54. Which is not true of t-score? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Apple. It's not true that the mean of the t-score is 10. What is 10 in t-score? It's the standard deviation. What is the mean of the t-score? 50. 55. The approach to test construction in which the item characteristic curve for each individual item is analyzed is called apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, apple, item response theory. Okay, buti naman natandaan. 56. When 100% of test takers get an item correct, what does it mean? Answer? Yes. If everyone gets it correct, the item will have a very low discriminability index. It cannot say who does well or who does poorly in that item or in the test. 57. In the practice of psychological assessment, the following are ethical except for apple, boy, cat, or dog. Which is unethical, kumbaga, sa tanong. Answer? Cat? Dog. Everything is ethical. What makes you think that cat is unethical? Because of the what? Because it's unstandardized and not norm. Babalik tayo sa, meron pa mga test na hindi standardized at walang norms. Ano yon? Tulad ng projective test. So pag gumamit kayo ng projective test, does it make it unethical? No. Okay, so it's okay if, especially if the weakness of the test is disclosed, such as it's unstandardized and that it does not have norms. Okay, that's okay. 58. Andre was referred for an assessment to understand his overall psychological functioning. Psychologist Pamela administered 1 ability test and 2 personality tests. Tests or measures that provide different types of information but serve to answer the same referral question. Functions as what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? With confidence, what's your answer? Apple. Additive. Okay, so the information from one test adds up with information obtained from the other 2 tests. And when you put them all together, the sum is the overall understanding of the client or the answer to the reason for referral. 59. Psychometrician Bell noticed that her client did better in verbal tasks than in non-verbal tasks. She specifically noted that Charles is more adept at understanding spoken instructions than watching someone demonstrate it. This approach to interpretation, which compared Charles' abilities against each other, is called apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, so apple. Idiographic. Next. Ay, sorry. 60. The tendency to generate explanations for events that have already occurred is called apple, boy, cat, or dog? Very good. Hindsight bias. Hindsight. Binabal yung to understand what happened in the past, no? Yung information that you have about that event affect your current explanation or interpretation. 61. When our selective memory causes us to make poor judgments, what is this kind of bias? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Altogether? Cat. Availability heuristics. What is available to your understanding? 62. Okay. The point by serial correlation between item and criterion score multiplied by the standard deviation is the formula for what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Again, apple, reliability index. Siguro pagkatapos natin, papakita ko na lang yung mga slides na ginamit last week, ha? Para yung mga tulad nito sa reliability index, para ma-review kayo ulit. Okay. In the IRT, the probability of a person passing an item depends on the following, except IRT. So, apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Cat. Very good. So, the IRT, in the IRT, you look at the what? The ability of the person and the difficulty of the item. That's what you analyze. Okay? Maria scored 18 out of 20 on a test that assessed her mastery of statistics. As per her professor's evaluation, a score of 18 is considered satisfactory. The interpretation of test score is apple, boy, cat, or dog? Boy, criterion reference, correct. 65. Josh is developing the norms of his newly constructed test for adults. So he gathered 1,000 adults, ages 25 to 70. Once he had 1,000 adults, he divided this to 5 groups. So Josh randomly assigned his samples to these 5 subgroups. This sampling technique is called the apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, the multi-stage stratified random sampling. 66. Which is true about obtaining a good normative sample just last week. So what is the answer? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, cat. So for group administered tests, dapat 10,000 participants per level. And as a rule of thumb, if the test is individually administered, you have to at least get 200 persons per level. 67. Which is true about floor effects of a test? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? This was just last week. Okay, cat. In the floor effects, okay, the floor of a test tells you, no, that this low score, probably an extremely low score, is interpretable, no? And it's usually used to make a clinical diagnosis. Okay, so ito yung set of scores na talagang mababa at merit. And this very low scores merit, or this set of low scores merit a diagnosis already. Okay? And the same for ceiling effects. Okay, the higher end or the higher scores. Okay, 68. Which of the following converted scores are non-linearly transformed? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Dog, yes. Percentile rank. 69. Alma is looking for a test that would allow her to make informed decisions regarding acceleration of select students in their school. So mag-accelerate siya. So dapat yung test niya must have apple, boy, cat, or dog. Very good, dog. Diagnostic validity. What does a test with good diagnostic validity tell you? Yes, the strengths and weaknesses of a person taking it, and the formulation of recommendations, no, based on test scores. 17. Tasha obtained an IQ score of 92 in the MAP2. This places her ability in the average classification. Her score may lie between the scores 87 to 97. In this example, 87 to 97 is referred to as the apple, boy, cat, or dog. Altogether? Cat, the confidence interval. Right. 71. As a rule of thumb, scores are significantly different from each other if there is how much points difference? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? With confidence, what's your answer? Boy, at least 10 points. 72. In a normal distribution, around how many percent falls within the -1 standard deviation and +1 standard deviation? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Boy, 68%. If it's between 0 and +1 standard deviation, ilan? 34, around 34%. 73. What is the primary rationale for using STEN or STAN9 in scoring some personality tests? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Yes, apple. STEN and STAN9 are a little less precise than T-scores, as personality measures are less precise than ability measures. B, while B is true, no, it's easier to interpret, but there is a better answer. And the more accurate, the better answer is letter A. No? So, loose ang interpretation ng STEN and STAN9 kasi just divide the group into 10 eh, okay, or 9. Okay? But then, So is our personality. No, we cannot say naman that our personality has an absolute equivalent score. Diba? So, using a relatively more loose classification, such as the STEN and STAN9, is more appropriate for personality tests. Okay. 74. So, na-memorize nyo na ba to? What is the correct formula for obtaining a STAN9 with reference to z-scores? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? What is the formula? Answer? Boy. Z times constant of 2 plus 5. Where did the 5 come from? 5 is the what of the STAN9? What is 5 in STAN9? It's the mean. Di ba gitna ng STAN9 ay 5? That's why it's constant. So if it's 10, it's z times a constant of 2 plus what? 5.5. Okay? 75. All psychological tests fundamentally depend upon the measurement of apple, boy, cat, or dog. Very good behavior samples. Malinaw sa inyo to, bakit behavior? Kasi yung psychological test naman, it really assesses our performance, our behaviors, right? And based on our performance of the test, okay, we can infer our cognitive abilities, mental processes, personalities, whatnot. But essentially, psychological test assesses samples of our behaviors. Okay? 76. In the final analysis, the worth of a test item or an entire test actually depends on apple, boy, cat, or dog. In the final analysis, at the bottom of it all, it should what? Yes, dog. So it should correspond with the criterion. Malinaw ba ito sa inyo? It's empirical correspondence sa criterion. So kung halimbawa, test of happiness, criterion ninyo happiness, so dapat nagtutugma yan sa empirical, sa yung talagang katotohanan, yung totoong na-experience mo na happiness. That is, in the final analysis, the essence of a test. Okay? 77. The major distinction between diagnosis and prediction centers upon apple, boy, cat, or dog. Very good. Time factors. So, diagnosis is what? Relative to prediction. Diagnosis, kung time factors, diagnosis is present. Prediction is future. Very good. '78. According to the Binet test, if a child has a mental level of 6, his performance is what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Very good. So, given the limited information, this is actually what we can just infer from it. Na his age, his score matches the average cognitive or mental abilities of other 6-year-old children. Okay? Although this item could further be expounded on. So, medyo bitin. We cannot say that the child is definitely retarded, not enough data. We cannot say it's he's ready for school because it's not a readiness test. The Binet scale is what? Is it an aptitude, ability, or achievement test? It was conceived as what? Stanford Binet. Is it an ability, aptitude, or achievement test? Is it an ability, aptitude, or achievement test? Stanford Binet. It's an ability test. So it will not tell you if you are ready for school. What would tell you if you're ready for school? An aptitude, an ability, or an achievement test? An aptitude test. Okay. 79. The major difference between aptitude and achievement tests is that aptitude tests, apple, boy, cat, or dog. Very good, cat. It depends less on specific content learning. So what is more dependent on content learning? What type of test? Achievement test. 80. The simplest measure of variability is the apple, boy, cat, or dog? Dog. It's the range. A stanide is an example of a or an apple, boy, cat, or dog. Yes, it's a standard score. 82. When we obtain a correlation of negative 1.24, what does it mean? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Everyone? Dog. Why is this an error? Because the highest should be positive or negative 1. Kapag over na yan, ibig sabihin meron kayong mali sa inyong computation. 83. The time interval between the first and second administration for test retest reliability should be apple, boy, cat, or dog? Altogether? Yes, cat. So you cannot really say it should be 1 hour or 4 hours. Regardless of your decision, you should disclose it. You should report it. Okay, so test 1 was administered at time, blah, blah, blah. Test 2 was administered at time, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So the decision, should I administer it 1 hour, 2 hours, 1 week after? That depends on your theory. Okay? The theory that you're basing it from or from the evidences that where you're basing it from. Anong number na tayo? 84. When reliability is determined by the delayed alternate form method, error variance is contributed by each of the following except. So alin dito ang hindi nakaka-influence or nakaka-contribute sa error variance? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Hula. Oh, yun. Tama naman palang karamihan. Apple. The test taker's differences in what is being measured doesn't really contribute to the error. Again, do you remember error variance versus true variance of scores? Yes or no? Okay. So, we just go over the slides again later, so I can discuss error versus true variance again. Bakit hindi B, bakit C and D? Bakit yung B, C, D nagko-contribute sa error variance? Okay. Because ito yung mga factors outside testing that may affect the scores of the person. And B, C, and D is not, should not happen in the first place. Okay? Makaka-contribute sila sa error or variability ng scores. Magkakaroon ng error or differences ang scores in the alternate forms method. Probably because of these three. Yung B, C, and D. And we should avoid it. Okay? Because we don't want error variant, a large error variance in our analysis. Okay? I'm speaking as if I'm using alien terms here. Because I look at you and I'm... Okay. Sige ha. Balikan na lang natin mamaya. Matapos muna tayo. Tapos tuloy-tuloy na ulit yung lecture. 85. The coefficient alpha is used to determine the inter-item consistency of tests with items. Coefficient alpha, apple, boy, cat, or dog. Altogether? Ay! Ang coefficient alpha ay ginagamit to a certain inter-item consistency. Consistent bang item 2 sa item 1, item 3, item 4? Kapag ang quality ng item ay anong klaseng scores? That can receive different numerical scores. Okay. 86. Content validation is more appropriate for apple, boy, cat, or dog. Altogether? Boy, achievement test. Bakit? Bakit? Ang achievement test? Bakit kailangan ng content validation? It's most appropriate. Nababore na ako sa sarili ko eh. Recite tayo. Bakit? Bakit kailangan ng content validation sa achievement test?
Parang mas more domain specific siya. As compared to personality test, more criterion or construct.
Yeah, okay. Let's make it more concise. In achievement test, when you say achievement, there are probably different domains, okay, which are specific to academic skills. Maybe there's math skills, language skills, or whatnot. Of course, it's very important that you do content validation, that your subtest math is really measuring numerical reasoning. Tama ba? That your English or your language is really measuring language abilities. Tama ba? That's why you have to do content validation. As compared to aptitude, it pertains to abilities that are not specific to learned, content learning. Okay? How do I simplify it? I think the first point that I said best simplifies it. You have to make sure that the content of your math test contains items that would assess your numerical reasoning skills. Naintindihan ba? And that your logico-mathematic or science abilities are properly assessed by this subtest, by your science subtest. You have to make sure that the content assesses those skills. Okay? So I do content validation. Anong number na tayo? 87. Okay, ito na naman siya. Criterion contamination occurs when apple, boy, cat, or dog. Altogether? Cat. Knowledge of test scores or test data influences the decision-making of the criterion judges. 88. The purpose of a regression equation is to what? This is easy. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Cat. To predict criterion performance. '89. Item difficulty is defined as apple, boy, cat, or dog. You should be able to get this by now. Everyone. Boy, that's right. Percentage of examiners who pass an item. If the percentage is high, what does it tell you about the item? The item is? The answer is boy, yes. If the percentage of the scores or the percentage of people who got this item correct is high, what does it mean? The item is what? Easy. Good. 90. Item discrimination means, alam nyo na to, answer. Item discrimination means apple, boy, cat, or dog? Sagot. Boy. Correctly discriminates among examinees on the appropriate or expected behavior. Letter A. May sumagot ng letter A? Partially true, but it's not as concise. Discriminates against some examinees. The phrase discriminates against examinees is vague. Okay? In what way? Okay, but B is more precise. Okay? Discriminates among examinees on certain constructs. In this particular context of behavior. 21. Intelligence tests are usually validated against apple, boy, cat, or dog. Answer? Dog. Scholastic success. In other terms, ability tests or IQ tests are usually validated against what type of test? IQ test, usually validated against what type of test? Achievement tests. Na-research niyo ba itong mga test na to? Familiar kayo dito? I'm pretty confident this will not come out, but for our extra knowledge, the ability to take responsibility for one's behavior and to take care of one's own needs can be evaluated by, hula ninyo, apple, boy, cat, or dog? Cat, very good. The Vineland scale. The Jessel scale is a what? It's a developmental scale for children. Pang babies to 9 to 10 years old. Tinitignan kung nami-meet ninyo yung milestones ninyo, no? His Nebraska is an aptitude test. Vineland is an adaptive or daily living skills test. The interim Hayes Binet is the what? Have you seen this? It's cute. It's an IQ test for the blind. The use of a computer to alter the sequencing of item presentation as a result of performance on previous items is called what kind of testing? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Very good. Adaptive testing. '94. Naintindihan niyo yung adaptive testing? Kailangan explanation. Okay, siguro in its simplest sense, nakakita na kayo ng flowchart na halimbawa, have you eaten breakfast? Yes or no? Tapos pag pinili mo yung yes, proceed to item 12. If your answer is no, proceed to item 10. So ganun siya. No? So depende sa iyong sagot kung ano yung sunod na item na lalabas. Yun yung adaptive computerized testing. Is that clear? Okay. 94. This is what I'm saying a while ago. So dapat tama yung sagot nyo, ha? If a test were designed to be totally culture-free, apple, boy, cat, or dog? Dog would probably not measure anything of value. It cannot be entirely culture-free. 95. The primary use for self-report inventories is a tool in what? Self-report inventories. Example of self-report inventories. Your structured personality tests. So, what are usually the purpose of taking or administering these tests? Boy, counseling and diagnosis. 96. Okay, you may think that, oh, pwede naman yan sa career decision making. Pwede rin naman yan sa self-evaluation personality. Pwede naman lahat, no? But the item calls for the primary use. Okay, the main use of self-report inventories. 96. Which of the following is not one of the basic methods for formulating a self-report inventory? Ano yung mukhang dubious dyan? Not a basic method for creating a self-report inventory? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Boy. Self-constructed response analysis. Familiar kayo sa empirical criterion keying? Hindi. Sige, mamaya na para tuloy-tuloy na tayo para hindi pa putol-putol. Nandyan yan sa slides. 97. Persons who are most likely to answer true or yes than false or no demonstrate a response bias known as apple, boy, cat, or dog. Boy. Acquiescence response. Alam niyo to? Di ba pag sumagot kayo ng survey or test, you're so unmotivated, you just go through. Okay? So you don't really read the items or analyze, you just answer like that. Or even if it's partially false, but you still tend to answer true or yes for you. 98. Usually, the primary function of an interview is to what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Interview? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Primary function of an interview. Sagot. Boy, life history. Of course, it provides an opportunity for observation, but again, that question requires what is the primary function of the interview. In communicating test results to an examinee, ayan na, feedback na. O, anong dapat? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Boy, the characteristics of the examinee must be considered. Not all technical information should be released. For example, the raw scores and other technicals of the testing not required to show, no? Boy ang sagot. 100, easy. One's general potential, independent of prior learning, is what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Apple, intelligence. A skill that allows one to determine if there is more, less, or an equal amount of attribute in comparison to another observation is what? More, less, equal is what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Again? Boy, ordinal. (102). Kung equal amounts lang, it could be interval. But there's an estimate that more or less, or it doesn't really say, that the intervals are equal. So it's ordinal. 102. Which of the following is not a similarity? So, double negative. Which of the following is a difference between an interview and psychological tests in general? What is the difference? Your answer? Konti na lang, guys. So, sagot nyo. Dog, they're equally important for gathering information in clinical settings. 103. One way to overcome the limitations of particular alternative ability test is to apple, boy, cat, or dog. Yes, so you have to use it along with other tests. What do you mean by asking for assent? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, dog. So securing permission from a minor, dun mismo sa bata, no? To take the psychological test. So informed consent, kanino mo hinihingi ang consent kapag ang client mo ay bata? Could be the guardian, no? But the assent, you still obtain from the client. When do we ask for assent? If the clients are what? Aside from a minor. Kapag incapable of understanding the test situation. For example, disabled or persons with disability. So you secure the informed consent from the guardian, but you still ask for the assent of the client himself. Okay? $105? Ay, naulit to. Ano sagot dito? Okay. 106. An example of a criterion reference score would be apple, boy, cat, or dog? Dog, very good percentage score. 107. The shape of the distribution of percentile scores is what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Answer? The answer is, actually parang kulang ano. The shape of the distribution of percentile scores, if there's equal frequency per score is a rectangular. No? So pakitaan ko na lang kayo ng example later. Is rectangular. So pantay siya kung sa bawat percentile score equal ang frequency. Okay? But if the distribution is normal, of course, the ogive curve or the distribution curve is normal. Okay? So, apple is the answer. 108. Data on two variables are collected. The data on the first variable are dichotomous and the data on the other variable are continuous. So what is the statistic of choice? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Dog by serial. Eta is for what? Correlation between? Eta. Correlation between a categorical variable and an interval variable. Phi, correlation between what kinds of variables? Dichotomous variables. Dichotomous ng categorical variables. Pearson, for continuous variables. Okay? And biserial for a dichotomous and a continuous variable. 109. As the head of personnel, you are in charge of hiring employees. Which of the following types of information would be most predictive of turnover? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Ano yung turnover? Alam niyo yung turnover? Resignation. Mag-resign. So, kung ikaw ang HR personnel, anong information ang magsasabi sa'yo na, okay, I'm predicting that this person would stay. I'm predicting that this person is likely to resign. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay, cat. Biodata or the CV of the person, the past experiences. Sana lang dinedeclare niya yung kanyang mga kung saan siya nag-work before. 110. A researcher develops a 50-item test intended to assess this. It's similar to the previous item. So what's the answer? Dog. Okay, good. Use subjects are more diverse. Next. Two predictor tests are developed. The first is a validity coefficient of 0.3 and the second a validity coefficient of 0.6. The amount of shared variability with the criterion is how many times greater in the second test as compared with the first? What's your answer? So, I also needed help with this. So, if we square coefficient of 0.3, that makes it 0.3 times 0.3. 9. It obtained variability, right? Coefficient of variability. What about 0.6? 0.6 squared. It's 36. So how many times greater is validity coefficient 0.6 is what? So 36 and 9, how many times greater? 4. So the answer is dong. To optimize discriminant validity, you would want discriminant validity. Apple, boy, cat, or dog. Discriminant validity. So you would know that your test is measuring a different test when compared to another. You want a what? Dog, right. You want a low to moderate correlation using one method or monomethod measuring different traits. Naintindihan ba? So, if you're developing a test of happiness, okay, you use one method. You correlate it to a test of sadness, okay, or negative emotions. Okay? So you have one method but different traits. And you want a low to moderate correlation between these two different traits. Okay? Because if they have a high correlation, what does that mean? The traits what? If there's a high correlation between two variables, it means that they converge. You don't want that. Gusto mo mababa ang correlation para masabi mo na they are different from the other. Okay, 113. To increase reliability, you could, discussed already, so what's your answer? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together? Decrease the subject homogeneity and increase the number of test items. Dog. 114. The difference between testing and measurement is apple, boy, cat, or dog. Answer? No. Psychological testing, psychological measurement, babalik na naman tayo dito. Testing is not the act of administration. So when we say psychological testing, it's the process of administration to scoring to interpretation. When we say psychological measurement, it's the same. You administer, you score, and interpret the test. So it's not A. It's not A. Are you saying that when you are conducting psychological measurement, you are just scoring? You're just scoring when you do psychological measurement. No, anong isuscore ninyo? Wala kayo in-administer. Okay, please review the difference. It's in your handouts. I've explained it. I've emphasized it. It's in your map. It's a very simple, these are very simple concepts that you should be able to distinguish. What is the difference between psychological testing, psychological measurement, evaluation, and assessment? They are different. But all begin with the process of identifying the reason, planning, administering the test, scoring the test, interpreting the test, and writing the report. Regardless if it's testing, measurement, evaluation, assessment, kompleto yan. Hindi independent yan of the other. Naintindihan ba? Balikan nyo yan, ha? Balikan nyo yung concepts na yan, yung 4 na concepts na yan. Ang test niyo ay psychological assessment, hindi psychological testing. Oh, anong difference ng assessment sa testing? What? What is the difference? Already, thank you. Let's ask the others. What are you going to take in your exam, board exam? Assessment or testing? What is the subject area? Psychological assessment or testing? What are you going to take in your board exam? What is the subject area? Psychological assessment or psychological testing? So, why is it psychological assessment and not testing? What is the difference? In your own words, this is the most basic of basic. What? Psychological testing. This is the act of sampling behaviors by administering, scoring, and interpreting the test. But we don't just do testing. Okay? As psychometricians, you may be doing testing, but not the full assessment. What is psychological assessment? So after you score and interpret, what do you do? In assessment, you evaluate the results, right? After you evaluate the results, what do you do? You evaluate the results. Mababa ang IQ. In assessment, what do you do with this information? You make what? Decisions. You make decisions, formulate recommendations, interventions, whatnot. That is assessment. Is this clear? Now, what is measurement? So when you apply for work as psychometricians, we need psychometricians who will do psychological measurement, who will do psychological testing. Do you know what kind of work you will be doing? Psychological measurement is what? The process of what? It's not the process of just scoring. Psychological measurement is the process of evaluating behavior using tests that are standardized, that are scored. In measurement, you use tests that yield what? Yield scores. That's why it's measurement. In testing, do you just use tests that yield scores? Yes or no? No. In psychological testing, the tests can be unstandardized in a sense that they don't require scores. Can you give me tests that do not require scores? Projective tests, for example. So if you administer projective tests, are you doing psychological measurement? Yes or no? Projective tests that are not scored, are you doing psychological measurement? No! But are you doing psychological testing? Yes. Is that clear? Is that clear? It worries me that the difference between these four constructs, you are not clear with it. I'm sorry. That's how passionate I am. Okay. Guys, this will be your work after you obtain your license. So what is the answer? Ano bang number tayo? 100. So, anong sagot? The answer is cat. Oh my God. When interviewing preschool age children for school admission, it is best to conduct a what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Apple, a structured interview. Bakit? Dahil kung unstructured ang interview ninyo, baka kung saan-saan pumunta ang inyong interview. Ng preschool age children, their thinking is still very concrete. You have to be specific with the questions that you ask so that you get the information that you want or that you need. 116. When communicating test results, apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Lakasan ninyo. The answer is apple. Ilang beses natin i-emphasize, hindi required ang oral feedback. Ang required ay written report. Hindi pa kayo nagbabasa ng Code of Ethics. Magbasa kayo, ha? Ano na? Number? In determining methods of data collection, the psychologist is primarily guided by apple, boy, cat, or dog. Very good, boy. Yes, the referral question. 118. An example of assessment bias is what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Boy. Yes, boy. An examiner who thinks that adult males are generally more likely to perform better as managers. Okay, so the assessment bias is coming from the examiner or the client? Who? Yes, the bias is coming from the examiner. Okay. 119. The following are true of all psychological tests except apple, boy, cat, or dog. Answer? Parang threatening na eh. What's your answer? Seriously, what's the answer? I die. Talaga. The following are true of all psychological tests except psychological testing requires test taker to perform a specific thing. If you give a psychological test to your client, paano ka makaka-obtain ng sagot? Kung hindi siya kailangan gumalaw at magpakita ng behavior. B is not the answer. The answer is apple. Psychological test yield scores that are... Ano ba? Bakit mali ang A? All tests. Not all tests yield scores. Okay, now, miss, paano kung halimbawa binigyan mo ng psychological test tapos ayaw sumagot? Ibig sabihin, there's no behavior. So that justifies my answer letter B. Well, non-response is also a behavior, isn't it? Okay, so, psychological test, remember, samples behaviors. Behaviors, that's why, yes, we have to perform or assess specific behavior in psychological testing. Number 120. Which of the following is not true of non-standardized test? Not true of non-standardized test. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Cat. Yes, they can be used as part of the assessment. Okay, ito madali ha. So, masaya nating sagutin ang 121. The primary difference between objective and projective personality test is apple, boy, cat, or dog? Very good. The test. The test stimuli. May sumagot ng cat. Naiintindihan ko yan. Kasi, bakit? You may think that you're level A, no? Level A psychometrician, so you can do a level A test. But projective test, level B, level C, right? But it doesn't mean that projective tests require greater skills than administering objective personality tests. Pareho yan. Merong mga objective personality tests na level B and level C. So it's not the skill that defines it. It's the test stimuli. How are they different? Test stimuli, objective personality test, the items are, they're given in statement form and usually there are choices, it's usually close-ended. But projective tests, the stimulus are, or the stimuli are, vague, which is the very nature of projective tests. Okay? You can get a host of you have a host of possible responses. 122, okay, madali lang to ha. Spearman's theory of intelligence. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? All together. Answer? Dog. Came about as a result of factor analysis. Good. Oh, ito, inulit lang din to. In interpreting test scores, it is best to apple, boy, cat, or dog? Apple. Okay. What is the least utilized test of reliability for skills that assess states? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Boy. Bakit? State? Anong state? variable, mabago-bago. So, least mong gagamitin ang test retest. Okay, history to. Early interpretations of intelligence focus on the descriptive classification of individuals based on apple, boy, cat, or dog. Early interpretations of intelligence test. Remember yung pinakita ko sa inyong skill na merong imbecile, moron, superior intelligence. Ano yung tinitignan doon? Yes, the composite or overall score. Just that single score. The Levin and Marx scale. 126, easy. If the client speaks in a dialect or language is unfamiliar to the psychometrician, it is best to apple, boy, cat, or dog. Yes, so you can seek the assistance of a credible interpreter. The following statements are true and ethical when providing opinions of an individual's psychological functioning, except for what is the answer? So, alin dyan yung mali? Alin dyan yung, which one is incorrect? Which of the choices? Yes, cat. The psychologists may only give opinions after administering psychological tests. So you can actually give your professional opinion even if you have not done the assessment. But you have to base your opinions from what? Halimbawa, may humingi ng opinion sa inyo, no? Hindi naman kayong nag-administer ng test. Oh, mukha bang depressive itong aking kapatid. Miss Psychologist. Okay, so, pwede ba kayo magbigay ng inyong opinion? Yes or no? Yes, provided that, what? It's within the bounds of your competence. You receive training for it, about a particular question, and what else? You can base it from what? Existing, what? Data or psychological reports, for example. Nagpa-test siya ni Psychologist A. So, meron siyang psychological report. Kaya lang, hindi niya masyadong naintindihan yung report. So, pumunta siya sa'yo. O, tingnan mo nga kung ano yung result ng psychological test nitong, or psychological report nitong kapatid ko. Hindi ikaw mismo ang nag-conduct ng assessment. But based on that, no, on that report, and your knowledge of the condition, you can give your opinion. Is it clear? I remember discussing this with you in ethics. 128, because classic test theory assumes a person's true score is the same over time. Repeating the same test over and over gives a distribution of scores that reflect what? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Answer? Boy, random error. So dapat the score is the same, no? But if you administered it, okay, and saw differences, and then it must be coming from a random error. So this is what we look at in error variance. 129. Tests will be most reliable if they are apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, unidimensional. So discussed that already. 130. When Miss Anderson applied for an admin assistant job in a factory, she was given a test that examined her typing ability, political affiliation, and filing ability. The test clearly violates what kind of validity? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Everyone? Dog. Why content? Ano yung parang hindi dapat sinama sa battery kung ang ititignan lang ay ang kanyang admin skills? The political affiliation. 131. An exclusive preschool program has strict enrollment criteria and only accepts children with very high marks on the enrollment test. Unfortunately, they have found that enrollment does not correlate highly with the grades the children make. The probable reason is apple, boy, cat, or dog. Everyone? Dog. Range restriction. Masyado silang strict. Okay? Masyado silang strict that they probably miss out on other variables that impact their performance in school. Okay? Or with the grades. Okay? The range is so narrow, only looking at the high marks. 132. Which of the following functions is not included when doing assessment? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? According to RA 129. Ano yung hindi kasama sa function ng assessment? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Apple is providing consultations. B, C, and D are part of our primary functions as assessment psychologists. 133. At what point would we assume that the construct validity of the test has been established and no more studies about it should be done? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, so never. Construct validation is a continuous ongoing process. Test development. 134. Research on the effects of examiners' expectations upon test scores have shown that apple, boy, cat, or dog. How much of the examiner's expectations of the client's performance? Oh, this client is smart, must be able to have high scores in the achievement test. How much of that has been proven by researchers? What do studies say about it? What do you know about it? Anong hula ninyo? Wala kasi ito sa hindi siya common na inaano sa books. So, what do you think? What's your answer? Yeah, actually it's inconsistent. There's inconsistency with regard to the effect of the examiner's expectations. So the answer is cat. Which of the following differentiates between an interview and psychological tests in general? Which of the following differentiates interview and psychological tests? Yes, the answer is dog. Their importance for gathering information in clinical settings. So in clinical cases, which is given more weight? The interview or the testing? Clinical settings? Clinical settings? For you to make a diagnosis. For you to make a diagnosis, you have to administer clinical tests, right? Psychological tests that have diagnostic validity. Okay? It doesn't mean though that interview is less important. But we give more weight to test scores, okay, because it would tell us, kung the score is already clinical or not. Okay? 137. According to Sternberg, a person with good blank intelligence is able to deal effectively with novel or new tasks. What type of intelligence? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Altogether? Yeah, okay, sige. 137 is boy, experiential. We move back to 136. According to the ethics code of the APA, test results, apple, boy, cat, or dog? Cat. Can be subpoenaed and therefore are not always confidential. Okay, classical theory of reliability is also known as the theory of apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, true and error scores, cat. The particular choice of items on a test is blank a source of measurement error in psychological testing. The choice of items on a test. How often is this a source of measurement in psychological testing? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Apple. Wrong choice of items is always a source of error in testing. The standard deviation of an examinee's hypothetical obtained scores on a large number of equivalent tests is the what? This is the formula for the apple, boy, cat, or dog? Dog. Standard error of measurement. According to Sternberg, blank intelligence is defined as mental activity involved in purposive adaptation to, shaping of, and selection of real-world environment relevant to one's life. This is apple, boy, cat, or dog? Cat, contextual. Oh, this one repeated. What is the answer for 142? Boy. Okay. Decision theory. Persons are predicted to succeed but they fail is an example of apple, boy, cat, or dog? Apple, false positive. The forced choice method is designed to counter the problem of, familiar kayo dito? So ano yung isa sa mga function ng forced choice method? Yan ang ginagamit, or personality test use the forced choice method to eliminate what? Boy, social desirability. Yun, they would present themselves more positively, no? When you say forced choice, usually ilang options? Dalawa. Okay? So this or that. Walang neutral, walang in-betweens. No? So you minimize that social desirability effect. In blank, the examinee must form an internal visual mental trace in order to answer the items correctly. You're familiar with this? I'll just give the answers. Oh yeah, digits backward. No? Mental trace meaning you're manipulating the numbers in your head, no? This is all mental manipulation of the information. Have I given you the example of digits backward so that you understand what it is? Yes? Digits forward is, okay, so I'd like you to remember these numbers in a series, no? 5, 9, 0, 2. Can you repeat it to me?
5, 9, 0, 2.
Okay, in digits backward, you would have to say it backwards. So say it backwards.
2, 0, 9.
Okay, so for you to say that, you do a visualization, no? So that you see the position of the numbers. So that's the digits backward. The Cage questionnaire asks about the following except answer. Dog has denied drinking for more than 3 days. Although this is, I'm pretty sure it would not come out. So it asks about if you cut down on drinking, have you felt annoyed in the past, have you gone in binges in drinking, and yeah. So CAG is an acronym. 147. The risk in group testing is that some examinees will apple, boy, cat, or dog. Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Yes, apple. Score far below their true ability. Why is that? What are the factors that may affect your performance in group testing? Bakit maaaring hindi niya makuha yung true ability mo? What are the disadvantages of group testing? Let's say it's an IQ test, no? So I administered it to 25 examinees. Maaaring yung isa, yung IQ niya, eh hindi talaga yun yung true ability score niya. So bakit ganon? Anong maaaring dahilan? What is the downside of administering a group test? Maaaring hindi siya naka-follow sa instructions at hindi natutukan ng test administrator, or yung understanding niya of the items, no, he was not given the chance to be clarified about it. Hence, these may affect the true ability, the score of the true ability, the score which measures the true ability. Which statement is not a misconception about IQ? Ibig sabihin, what is true about IQ? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? Okay, the answer is boy. IQ scores are always relative. But answer dog? Can I get back to you on this? Could also be dog.
140.
Sige, balikan natin yan, ha? 149. Always relative. Relative to what? Anyway, sige, balikan ko. 149. Michael's a 20-year-old man who just completed an IQ test because his social worker wanted to assess the option that would be best suited for him. Michael's test score was 60. Based on this information, what recommendation should the social worker make? Apple, boy, cat, or dog? I remember this item. This is not answerable. Sorry. Why? Why is this not answerable? Kasi siguro, hindi maganda ang ano nito, difficulty. Item difficulty. Because, point for discussion. Bakit? Bakit siya hindi answerable? Why? Kung kayo ang psychometrician, ang score niya sa IQ test ay 60. Ano sagot niyo pala? Sorry. Boy. Why? Yeah, the answer key should be boy. But it should not be. It's not the most appropriate recommendation. Why is that? You may think that an IQ score of 60 is what? Mababa, no? But then again, relative to what? It did not really say the classification of the scores, right? That's for one. Secondly, the recommendations pertain to what? The recommendations talk about what? Yung mga recommendations, it's about his ability to what? To support himself, to take care of himself, which is best assessed not by an IQ test, but what? An adaptive functioning test. So, bonus. 150. The critical incidence technique involves recording of behaviors by, you look at critical incidents in the workplace that would allow you to make decisions. So, who is the best person? Ay, sinabi ko. Ang sagot ay, okay boy, supervisors in the workplace. Yes, so critical incidence technique. So, you give them certain tasks so that would allow them to manifest critical behaviors. Okay. Please count your scores.
And then ang passing nila, they should be able to get how many?
Ano, kasi dapat target nila 0.75. So mga
Out of 150.
113. 113.
Correct.
Okay, so ang target nyo dapat 113 correct answers. 130 and above, taas ng kamay. Woo! Good. 100 and above. 100 to 112. 199 and below. Just kidding. Okay. Sandali lang ha, sandali. What is empirical criterion keying? This is normally used in developing personality tests. Okay? Malinaw ba sa inyo to? Simplihan lang natin. So define. You select test items that discriminate between normal individuals against diagnostic groups or clinical groups, for example. No? Regardless whether the items appear theoretically relevant to the diagnosis. Halimbawa, in theory, high neuroticism. High neuroticism would predict what? Can you give me a psychological disorder that is characterized by high neuroticism or what? Okay, anxiety disorders, no? Now, in empirical criterion keying, halimbawa, meron kang items. So you have 100 items. Tapos merong isang item that doesn't pertain necessarily to neuroticism. It's not a neurotic item, for example. It doesn't assess neuroticism, this particular item. But those who answer this item as true of himself, okay, let's say, I like going on a vacation, for example. I like going on a vacation. Is this item theoretically predictive of anxiety disorders? Hindi, di ba? But after administering to people who have, for example, anxiety, this particular item predicts anxiety disorder. In empirical criterion keying, even if it's not based on theory, pero dinidiscriminate niya itong item na to, really discriminates anxious people from normal people, I would take it. I would include that item. Empirical criterion. It's based on the results of perhaps the preliminary test. No? So independent of regardless if the theory says that it doesn't. Naiintindihan niyo ba? Okay. So, kapag sinabi ng theory na ito lang ang mga items na magpe-predict ng depression na lang, depression. Kasi sabi ni Joey De Leon, ano daw yan? Gawa-gawa lang. In a way, I don't want to explain. Anyway, sabi, ito lang, no? Ito items lang ito predict ng depression. Pero, sa iyong analysis, merong isang pasaway na item, nag-iisang item, that also predicted depression. Not in the scope of your theory. Do I take it? Do I omit it? I take it. That's what empirical criterion keying does. Malinaw ba? Okay. Decision theory, do we need to review? True positive? So we have two situations. Ayan na! Oh. So we have two situations here. Okay? So ito yung sinasabi mo. No? Pero ito yung katotohanan. So, sa true positive, oh yes, I'm saying that he is sick. Positive sa sickness. Okay? The actual situation, he is really sick. Okay? Now, in true negative, you're saying that he's not sick. Negative. No, not sick. Negative siya sa sakit. Ang totoo ay, talagang he is really not sick. Is this clear? Okay. False positive. Positive, sinasabi mo na, positive, may sakit siya, he is sick. Pero false yun, kasi sa katotohanan, hindi talaga siya sick. Okay? False negative. Sabi mo, wala. Pero mali ka. Kasi may sakit siya. Okay? Naintindihan ba? Okay. True variance, error variance. Sandali na lang, ha? Kasi mga iba, hindi pa rin makuha. True variance of scores. The variance or the difference in the scores is relevant to the purpose of the test. So the test should actually really see that there is a difference in the scores. Ito yung ginamit kong example last time. So, true variance of scores given the test of energy level. In theory, ang energy natin within the day ay pabago-bago. Okay? So halimbawa, just today is Sunday, October 8, I administer to you the energy test, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 noon, 2 p.m., 4 p.m. Okay? In theory, ang energy level within the day ay what? Energy level, is it sustained? Or does it fluctuate? Okay. But even if it fluctuates, it just fluctuates, hindi malalaki ang difference, di ba? Ngayon, kung makakita ka ng difference sa scores mo, energy level within the day, it's attributable to the true variance of scores. Kasi ganun talaga. Ang expectation, magbabago-bago yung score mo within the day. But then, it becomes classified as error variance. If, for example, at 8 a.m., your score is 10, which is very high energy. But at 10 a.m., just 2 hours after, your score is 1. And then at 12 noon, your score spikes again at 10, 2, Okay. Now, kung ganon, no, it may be attributable to something else, but not because it's what's expected to happen. No? So, anong magiging dahilan kung bakit ang score mo sa una ay 10, tapos bigla naging 1, tapos naging 10 ulit? It's what? Is it because of how we conceive energy? But maybe because you received a text from your ex-boyfriend breaking up with you. And so, energy is 10. And then, so it's not because of how we understand energy. It's something else that caused that. So that is where, this is what we mean by error variance. So the error or the variance in scores is due to random or chance errors. Naintindihan ba? So in reliability, we look at the true variance of scores. Okay? So even if there's variability, it's expected. And it's true of the construct that you're measuring. This is clear? Okay. Item difficulty? Here? The higher the percentage of individuals getting it correct, the easier the item. So, what can you say about item 1? 87.2% of the people got it correct. Is the item easy or difficult? Easy, very good. Okay. Now, what do these values tell us? Is the percentage of what? Sige, review lang. Percentage to ng ano? Ng? Percentage ng scores? Percentage ng mga tao. So, ibig sabihin itong 87.2 na to, sa inyo, 87.2 sa inyo, tama ang sagot. Unang-una niyang tamang sagot, ibig sabihin madali yung item. Item discrimination. The higher the correlation, the more discriminating the item is. Okay? Positive 2 is recommended, but to be in psychological testing, we want it higher, we want 0.30. Okay, now, if the item is closer to as in point by zero correlation, so this is the statistic that allows for that. The closer to positive 1.0, the more discriminating the item is. So in this particular item, what is the sum of 2 plus 2? The point by zero correlation is 0.77. It means it's a good item. It tells me na itong item na to, may mga ibang nakakasagot ng tama, may iba nakakasagot ng mali. Ibig sabihin, it discriminates. It tells me, alongside analysis with the total score, it tells me if this item would separate the good ones from the bad ones. Okay? Yan. So itong negative 0.911, ano yan? Is it discriminating or not? Not. Okay? So, if the item is too easy, or if the item is too difficult, in item difficulty, not discrimination, in item difficulty, do we remove it or do we retain it? If the item is too easy or too difficult, you retain it or omit it? Retain or omit? Retain or omit? Retain or omit? The answer is it depends. Okay? No, I'm not kidding. It depends on your rationale. If you want an item that is entry level, I told last, if you want an item that is entry level, that everyone gets to answer it, you retain items that are easy. But if you want your test to really sort out the people, of course, you would have to change the items to a more difficult item. Okay? Halina ba? Same with item discrimination. Do I omit items with low discrimination index? Not necessarily. If you want everyone to be in that same level, it's okay. Okay, so it's up to your rationale. It doesn't make the items bad or good. It depends. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Okay, so we are over time. Questions? Okay, so I wish you all well. Good luck.
Yay!
That really good luck. So we're just 2 weeks away.
Magkano?
Okay, may questions ba kayo or you want to ask something about your exam or some topics? If you have, you can approach Ma'am Trina. You may take that opportunity. This afternoon, we will have Rasha naman for IO. So si Sir Jock will be here again. So just before you go to lunch, so you might probably sense already even during your mock exam 5 na nagte-take kayo that the questions just repeated itself. Diba? So the structure or the methodology that we're doing with the mock 5, and probably you were able to receive an email about the mock 6. Meron ba? Nakatanggap ng email about the mock 6? Announcement about the mock 6, the collaborative mock exam. So yun ang the methodology is for the